Hello and welcome back to the Pitchsidepodcast. I am your host, the HOD of the BSB. Like, share, comment on the YouTube version of this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Enable notifications to receive all of the updates from these episodes of the podcast and all the other content on the channel. Of course, listen to this on Spotify, Google Podcast or any other platform. And follow social media. I'm at SidebSB on Twitter, Pitchsidepod on Instagram. Join us for more and you're welcome. Welcome to episode 104. Let's kick things off in England and talking about the FA Cup, of course, on Saturday. It was the quarter-final of the FA Cup, the first couple of matches. Of course, Bournemouth lost to Southampton 3-0 at home, of course, in pretty quick dispatching, really, from the Saints for the side from the Championship at the moment. The 3 goals coming on pretty early in the game, really. 37th minute, Moussa Djenepo opening the scoring, and Nathan Redmond making it 2-0 before the end of the first half. And at the hour mark, Nathan Redmond also made it 3 for Southampton to qualify for the semi-final of that competition and put the Saints through to the next round. And Manchester City managed to defeat Everton 2-0 in a game that, was what it was. They left it really late to score the 2 goals from De Bruyne and Gundogan. It was not exactly the most brilliant of games. I mean, Everton had a terrific defensive performance in the first half in particular. They really denied Man City a lot of space, but eventually they were tired, they were exhausted. Physically, it took a lot of power out of them, really, to try and defend Manchester City, and eventually they did score. It was late. I mean, it was looking like the game would have gone to penalties, really, but Man City managed to score the 2 goals from Gundogan and De Bruyne, and managing to, actually, I mean, really, it was a hard job for Man City, and until De Bruyne got in, it was pretty clear that Man City could not score against a side like Everton that, were tight. They closed down really well, but certainly the physical factor and the stamina factor was a big one in this game and determining the result of this game. 2-0 for Man City. The quadruple goes on, I think. The dream of the quadruple goes on until the semi-final at least. Where we don't know who Man City are going to be facing. The draw is going to be yet to be made. As for Sunday, of course, Chelsea faces Sheffield United, a game where we expect Chelsea to go through pretty much, and Man United are going to be facing Leicester City. That is, I think, a money tie, of course, of this tournament. Man United versus Leicester City. This is a big one, and probably the one who are going to be facing Manchester City is going to be from that tie. We might see another Manchester derby in the semi-final. We might see a City versus Leicester City game. We don't know, really, but whatever option it is going to be really interesting to see. So Southampton and Manchester City are through, and we're going to be waiting for who's going to be going through from United and Leicester City. Going on to Germany and some Bundesliga action on Saturday, and boy, was Saturday an eventful one in the Bundesliga, and we have to kick things off from the Allianz Arena, where Bayern Munich managed to demolish Stuttgart 4-0 with a red card. With a red card to Alphonso Davies, of course, a deserved red card. I'm not going to say anything about it, really. The tackle was late and errant, I would say, from Alphonso Davies, which is something unusual from him. He doesn't usually do that, but, things happen. He took the red card inside 10 minutes. For some reason, Stuttgart had a couple of chances really afterwards where they could have scored, and they could have taken an early lead that I'm not going to say made the game impossible for Bayern, but certainly made it nervous. I mean, Bayern with their usual nervy, shaky self in the first 10 minutes, but then, and after the red card for some reason, they exploded into life, and LewanGOALski. I mean, I don't want anyone to give me arguments saying that there's any striker in the world at the moment that is better than LewanGOALski. I mean, the bad thing for him is that he's Polish. That is Paul. And Poland has 1%, 0.9% to win an international trophy. So he won't be considered one of the greatest of all time, really. And, that is going to be really damaging for someone who, after the last season, done it all, really. And I think he deserves a Ballon d'Or. He really deserves a Ballon d'Or. It's going to be a robbery, a clear robbery. And I'm not meaning Robben and Ribéry. It's a clear robbery if he doesn't win the Ballon d'Or. in this year. It's gonna be weird because he definitely deserves it. I think he's the only one really that deserves it. You can talk me Messi, you can talk me Ronaldo, whatever names are gonna be popping up, but I don't think there's anyone deserving of a Ballon d'Or more than Lewandowski. He's having another season on fire, 35 goals already in the Bundesliga. He's going to beat that Gerd Müller record. We all know that, I think, by now. And, please do not enter the comparisons with any other striker at the moment, because Lewandowski is just another level above them. The perfect hat-trick from the pole, a left foot, right foot, and a header. And I think, in the space of 20 minutes, Bayern Munich managed to make this unbelievably, easy, winning 4-0 inside the first half, and then of course, Hansi Flick, managed to make all the substitutions that he wanted. He took Koeman out and brought Serge Gnabry in. Jamal Musiala was introduced for Leroy Sané, who had yet another incredible game, and he's low-key one of the best players in Bayern at the moment. He's really improving. He's showing why he's an incredible talent. He's showing why Bayern were really keen to sign him. Choupo-Moting got in, and Bayern played basically on the first gear for the second half and didn't want to really frustrate themselves by going forward and exhausting themselves, because players are going into international break. Good news is Lewandowski is not going to be quarantining upon returning, so there's every chance that he's going to be available for the Leipzig game, bar an injury or a COVID situation from nowhere, which could happen really, and might be a concern in the back of the mind of the player, but definitely at least for the moment, he's fine and he's well to go for the international break. Stuttgart, on the other hand, they mustered a couple of opportunities in the first half. They had a good spell, really, in the first half, where they could have scored, and then fleeting moments in the second half, but definitely not enough to trouble Bayern. The fact is, they had more possession, if anything, than Bayern, which is weird to say for for a team like Stuttgart, but definitely the first half belonged to Bayern. 4 shots on target equal 4 goals to Bayern. That is 100% effectiveness in the first half from Bayern Munich. 3 extra in the second half, but definitely, again, Bayern didn't want to score more, really. Probably didn't want to exhaust themselves, and, definitely conserving the stamina for other matches and for other bigger occasions is the most important thing at the moment. Keep it in the back of the mind, of course. The fixture against Leipzig is the first after the international break, so that is going to be a title decider. Then you have PSG in the Champions League. So, quite frankly, this is going to be a big stretch for Bayern, and again, they're picking the form at the right moment, and that is scary. PSG, you must be watching that game and thinking, Lewandowski is unstoppable. He's on fire at the moment, and it's gonna take a lot of hard work to stop him scoring in that first game, in the second game, in the couple of legs. Whatever you wanted, it's gonna be hard to stop him anyway. Another person that's gonna be hard to stop is Erling Haaland, who scored again against Köln, but this result eventually that they got was pretty disappointing. A 2-2 draw against Köln away from home, and Köln proved to be the sort of the stone in the Borussia Dortmund shoe. Borussia Dortmund went ahead early with Erling Haaland, a beautiful goal, by the way. The first touch was sublime, the way he turned inside the defender and just slots it in past the Köln goalkeeper Team Horn for the 1-0 lead. But then, so it was a 1-0 lead. Dortmund had a couple of chances. They missed. Haaland hit the post, and he definitely looked frustrated. Like, Haaland did something unusual here. Like, saying that Erling Haaland was missing chances is a weird thing at the moment to say, but he did. He missed a couple of chances. He hit the post. He had a couple of near close opportunities to score a second goal in the first half. But then Köln started attacking a little bit more. And the problem with Dortmund is that for some reason when they couldn't score, they panic and they regress, and they did that against Köln, and they conceded a penalty. It was a weird penalty from Jude Bellingham, given away by Jude Bellingham, and he shouldn't have been given that. But for some reason, he was leaning towards the ball, so the referee had no choice. After of course reviewing it with the VAR, he went to the spot and gave a penalty for Köln. And Andre Duda managed to make it 1-1 for the Köln side. 35 minutes in, and the first half ended on Köln being the better side. Actually, the second half started. Dortmund had a couple of opportunities as well early on before Köln catched them on the counter and completely exposed them on the counter, and Ismail Jacobs managed to make it 2-1 for Köln. And what followed really was a very, very sort of panicked Borussia Dortmund scrambling to score goals and to have opportunities and to create opportunities in the game. It was really, really a rough thing to watch, pretty much. And, eventually Borussia Dortmund managed to grab the equaliser. Erling Haaland again with his second goal, and, a tap-in from the goal line, pretty much, that is unmissable even from an alien. And he scores the second goal. The result overall, again, was disappointing, and if you didn't know that, you should have seen Erling Haaland storming angrily after the game, really. He gave his shirt to Mary, the player from Köln, to Jorge Mary, and he gave him his shirt and just left and stormed off the field. Like, he absolutely disappointed. And I know these things might not be considerable because the next game is going to be fine because of his age and all, but definitely that is something he might want to tone down. That might creep into his character and might really disrupt the flow and the way he is acting on the pitch, because the older he grows, the bigger that problem is going to grow with him, because if you don't control it since this age while he's still young and still has space to evolve, because once he hits his prime, I don't think that these things will be quite as tolerable, and from other teams that are going to employ him in the future, I don't think that will be quite tolerable, really. Borussia Dortmund, I think, dealing another blow to their top 4 chances in the Bundesliga. It doesn't look like they will. It doesn't look like it will be easy for them to go into the top 4 with 8 games remaining, 4 points behind Frankfurt, 8 points behind Wolfsburg. So mathematically and logically speaking, they won't get more than only the last spot. I mean, they would barely actually get to that spot at the Champions League, the 4th spot, that where Frankfurt are in at the moment. And speaking of them, they completely trashed Union Berlin 5-2. I mean, trashing is not the right word, really, because the 5-2 result suggested that it was a complete rout from Frankfurt. Well, it wasn't really. Union Berlin had a pretty solid game in the first half. In particular, the first half ended 4-2 somehow. I don't know how that happened, but it did. The first half ended 4-2. The goal from Andre Silva in the second minute. Max Kruse equalised in the 7th, and that was an electric start already. Union Berlin had a couple of opportunities afterwards to score the second goal, but then Robert Andrich, with the weirdest own goal I saw this season, just turns around, passes it. The goalkeeper for Union Berlin, Andreas Luther, was just outside of his goal, like waiting for the pass. I mean, and I think he wasn't to blame, really. Andrich should have saw this coming. Should have really, had his head up and look where the goalkeeper is. He didn't do that, and he passed it without even seeing where the net was, and he scored on his own goal. I mean, if he wanted to do that, if he wanted to score that goal, he wouldn't have done it probably, but he did. It ended up in the net. It was 2-1 for Frankfurt, and with a goal like that, you're giving confidence for a side like Frankfurt to get on you. And as Union Berlin stormed forward looking for the equaliser, Eintracht Frankfurt, in the space of a couple of minutes, literally managed to make it 4-1. Filip Kostic scoring, and Andre Silva toying with the defence to score the 4th goal. Max Kruse made it 4-2 before half-time, and again, it was an electric first half between Frankfurt and Berlin. The second half was pretty much all Frankfurt, really, just controlling the pace of the game, trying to slow it down before Timothy Chandler scored in the 92nd minute, the 5th goal for Eintracht Frankfurt, giving them a 5-2 victory that, as I mentioned, would secure them at the moment the 4 spots in the Bundesliga. With 47 points, as you mentioned, 4 points above Dortmund. It looks like Frankfurt may be the ones to be in the Champions League next season ahead of Borussia Dortmund, and that, for a lot of considerations, is going to have a bad effect on the club. And I think we talked on that on a couple of occasions, the way that the players are going to be leaving the club potentially, and all of that. Werder Bremen faced Wolfsburg. Wolfsburg, another contender for the top 4 spots, managed to make it 2-1. A great victory for them. An own goal again in this game, and this time from Josh Sargent, inside 8 minutes. Wolfsburg with a better side this one. I mean, this is not like the Frankfurt Berlin game where there was a bit of back and forth and a bit of sort of equity in this one. It was, a pretty dominated game by Wolfsburg. The second goal scored by Wout Weghorst in the 42nd minute. All the action happening in the first half, really, and Kevin Morville made it 2-1. Werder Bremen trying a couple of opportunities later on in the game, but they couldn't equalise. An important victory for Wolfsburg. 51 points they now have on the in third place behind Leipzig and Bayern. They are in a pretty safe space, I would say. Only Frankfurt really could absolutely challenge them, I think, for their third spot on the table, because it doesn't look to me like Dortmund are going to get to there. So it's going to be between Wolfsburg and Eintracht Frankfurt really for that third spot. And finally, as usual, when I mention Schalke on this podcast, it's mentioned with all the sadness in the world. It was against Mönchengladbach. Perfect opportunities for both sides to meet each other, and Borussia Mönchengladbach took advantage. They scored against, then Schalke 3-0. It ended for Borussia Mönchengladbach. Lars Stindl opened the account in the 15th minute. Stefan Leiner managed to make it 2-0 in the 63rd minute, and a known goal once again. Although it's pretty much a header, really, from Marcus Thuram, and the goalkeeper Renault made a mess of it. He lets it roll clearly behind the line, clearly got in. It was 2-0. The Borussia Mönchengladbach, or 3-0 for Borussia Mönchengladbach, with that goal. Finally, a victory for Borussia Mönchengladbach, because their form has been, really bad, Borussia Mönchengladbach. Their form has been so weird this season as of late. This is the first victory in a long, long time. I mean, for the last 8 games straight, they couldn't be victorious. They didn't bother. For the last 9 games straight, they couldn't be victorious. 1 draw and 8 losses back-to-back in all competitions. Finally, they grab a win, and I think against an opponent that everybody would have, envied to beat it and to get the 3 points off, because that is what you want really against Schalke. They are relegation confirmed, and you cannot really just lose points against them. Anyway, finally they really realised that they should be winning points, and they got the points against the right opponent really, and that at least would tone down some of the criticism against Marco Rose. The Bundesliga table stands like this at the moment. Bayern Munich 61 points, Leipzig 57, 31 for Wolfsburg, 47 for Dortmund, 47 for Frankfurt, 43 for Dortmund, 40 for Leverkusen, 38 for Union Berlin, 36 for both Stuttgart and Gladbach, 34 for Freiburg, 30 for Hoffenheim, 30 for Bremen, 29 for Augsburg, 23 for Köln, 22 for Bielefeld, 21 for Hertha Berlin and Mainz. That is quite the struggle there in the relegation zone, pretty tight, and only 10 points for Schalke this season. So congratulations for Bayern, of course, with the victory, and Schalke, we hope to see you in a better state than this next season. Hope you return soon to the Bundesliga. Of course, on Sunday the action continues in the Bundesliga with 3 games on the menu. Hoffenheim versus Mainz, Hertha Berlin faces Leverkusen, and Freiburg hosting Augsburg. Elsewhere in the leagues, in the Premier League, Brighton Hove Albion managed to defeat Newcastle United 3-0. Of course, on Saturday, the goals coming in from Leandro Trossard at the 55th and 45th minute before the end of the first half. Danny Welbeck making it 2 in the second half, and Neil Maupay making it 3 for Brighton. An important victory for the Hove Albion side that gets them up to 16th on the table, really, and makes them more comfortable, I think, in the fact that they will not be relegated. I mean, they're pretty above Newcastle, 4 points. 6 above Fulham. They're pretty safe, I think, and secure at the moment. And another victory might mean that they won't be relegated and might secure them for good this season. Of course, in the Premier League, the game between Tottenham and Southampton was postponed, of course, because of the commitments of Southampton in the FA Cup as well. Tottenham's going to be playing Aston Villa today. Instead, of course, going to be rescheduled from round 18 because of the COVID outbreak for both sides, and for Aston Villa in particular, they didn't allow them to play that game. So it's going to be Tottenham-Aston Villa, from their game in Serie A. Of course, 2 games took place yesterday. Crotone faced Bologna, and Bologna managed to turn around things from 2-0 down, going 3-2 up. Of course, they started the game strong, but Crotone managed to really took them by surprise with the 2 goals by Junior Messias and Simi from the penalty spot inside 40 minutes of the first half. In the second half, Sumauro scored the first goal for Bologna, then Schutten managed to equalise thanks to an assist from Moussa Barrow inside the 70th minute, and late on in the game in the 84th minute, Skov Olsen managed to make it 3-2 for Bologna. Now this victory means a lot, really, because Bologna are in 10th at the moment. It's pretty surprising considering where people would think the side was. Sinisa Mihajlovic is definitely doing something right, and against the bottom of the table, of course, Crotone are more and more into problem and into dirt in the bottom of the table with 15 points, 4 behind Parma. It doesn't look like they're going to be saving themselves anytime soon, so probably Cagliari are with the chance of saving themselves this season, but I don't think that either Parma or Crotone are going to be doing that this season. Spezia defeating Cagliari 2-1. Spezia, of course, played a really smart game against a Cagliari side that tried and failed to break them down. Piccoli managed to open the scoring for them in the 49th minute. Giulio Maggiore added in the second goal for the 80th minute, and in the 83rd minute, Gaston Pereiro scored the only goal for Cagliari, the consolation goal that didn't amount to anything really in the game. 3 points for Spezia. That would put them at 15th with 29 points. They are also a pretty secured side from relegation, considering what everybody expected them, and that would be boding positive for them for the rest of the season, really. Of course, the Serie A on Sunday takes action, of course, with Hellas Verona facing Atalanta, Juve facing Benevento, Sampdoria Torino, Udinese Lazio, Fiorentina Milan, and Roma facing Napoli. Finishing off with La Liga in Spain, and of course the big focus is going to be on the Madrid side of things, with Real Madrid, of course, victorious against Celta Vigo 3-1, but not before the game between Athletic Bilbao and Eibar ended in a draw 1-1. Huesca drawn goalless against Osasuna, and Valladolid late in the night drawn 1-1 against Sevilla as well. So for Real Madrid, an important victory against Celta Vigo in a game that I certainly expected to be tough on them, expected to be hard, but overall it wasn't that hard. Real Madrid continued with the 3 in the back kind of situation, almost shifting it to a 4 in the back when they needed. They trying everything, Real Madrid. They're trying everything. They almost playing with a 3-5-2. Definitely Federico Valverde is involved more as a winger in this one. They're trying all the shapes to try and manage the best they could out of the team that is getting more agey and getting less athletic, I would say. Definitely what suits them is a slow game, a game where they control the ball, where they just have the pace, and when they just try and switch play with Benzema moving and Vinicius moving and having a focal point up front where they can just lump the balls maybe forward, play those smart passes in between, and of course capitalize on that movement, because they would need Benzema's movement. And if you didn't believe that they need him, he scored 2 goals and had the assist on the day for this game. The first goal coming on in the 20th minute from an assist from Toni Kroos. Again, Toni Kroos with the assist for the second goal inside the half an hour mark in the first half. Santi Mina made it 2-1, and it looked pretty nervy for Real Madrid, conceding from a set piece. It was exactly the same scenario of the Atalanta game in the Champions League. It was 2 goals for Real Madrid, then a goal from free kick, a set piece, and then they scored the third. And overall it looked nervy, but it wasn't eventually nervy for Real Madrid. An important victory for them, again, that keeps the title race somewhat alive, sort of. 3 points behind Atletico Madrid, who play today against Deportivo Alaves, and of course, 1 point ahead of Barcelona, who play, an important game against Real Sociedad. It's incredibly tight in that top of the table. I mean, it could change really quickly. Barcelona could find themselves 1 point behind Atletico Madrid at the end of the day, depending on what result is going to be taking place between Atletico and Deportivo Alaves. Back to Real Madrid. Definitely, this is all about Benzema, really. Again, I really want to shower Benzema with praise because that's what he deserves as a player. He's been their most consistent player. He was a persona non grata, really, in Real Madrid. He was in the shadow of Cristiano Ronaldo. He accepted to sort of live in that, shadow of him and try and feed him and try and feed his ego and pass him and assist him and all of that and feed on the scraps pretty much. But now he's growing into the leader at, hitting the right stride of his career. The calls to the national team or the real sort of, demands to call him up to the national team ahead of the Euros is really increasing at the moment. But because the relationship with Didier Deschamps, it's impossible really to call him up for the national team, and that is something that I might talk about later in another video or episode. I don't really think that would happen anyway, but definitely at Real Madrid, he's the most important player, he's the most consistent player, he's the most smart player, he's the smartest player, I think one of the best strikers in the world at the moment, and he's getting the recognition that he deserves after some years where his reputation has been tarnished by the fact that he was known to be missing easy chances. I mean, that is kind of his thing, what was a couple of years ago, but definitely now he's growing into a big role of leader, taking what is rightfully his, I think, at Real Madrid, the leadership of that club at the moment, and he's helping Real Madrid boosting some of the best results they have in a couple of years, really, and he's improving their season drastically, both in the league and the Champions League. And certainly, if you're gonna give Real Madrid any chance of winning the tournament, I think Karim Benzema has to be the spearhead for them, really. As a striker, he's contributing a lot to their success this season. He's absolutely important. He's one of the best players for Real Madrid. He's one of the best players for Real Madrid. He's one of the best players in Laliga. Again, one of the best strikers in the world, and definitely someone who you would want to have, in your team. 17 goals for him this season, competing for the top scorer of the season. He might get it. Really, he's not that far. And again, I mean, he's really contributing in a big way for Real Madrid. If you think about it from a mathematic point of view, Real Madrid scored 49 goals and Benzema scored 17. So that's almost accounts to a third of those goals. So that's how you know that Benzema is important. So overall, Real Madrid with a 3-1 victory, and a victory that would again set in motion things ahead of the games in La Liga left on Sunday, with Getafe hosting Elche, Valencia hosting Granada, Villarreal hosting Cadiz, Atletico Madrid hosting Deportivo Alaves, and the game in the night, of course, which we will be reviewing, Real Sociedad hosting Barcelona. Definitely wait for us on that one. That's it for me for this episode. I was your boy, the HD of the PSP. Like, share, comment on this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates from all the content on the channel, including this podcast, which you can listen to on Spotify, Google Podcast, or any other platform. And until next time, follow us on social media at PSP on Twitter and Pitchsidepod, and I'll see you soon.